Okay, well, for this next hour, the presentation is up to Johan, and so I think it's a good idea everyone keeps his camera on and the microphone off. And if you have questions, just drop in or just put it in the chat, and then we can pick it up from there. Yeah, a while ago I read this blog post from Johan about cleaning up orgs and yeah, the benefits you can have from that. And I thought it's really interesting to dig a bit deeper and see, yeah, how important it is to keep your org clean, especially when, yeah, like we are all, when you have a Salesforce org, you are one of the tenants of a server. So of course you have to be a good tenant and not mess things up. And so, and in the end, when you have a smooth operation going on, it's good for your org, for your processes. And so I thought it's good to yeah, to sit down and think a bit further about this topic. So I invited Johan to do this presentation. So thank you for your cooperation, Johan. And please go ahead and lead us through your presentation.
Thank you very much for having me. I think this collaboration was great. Bart and I invested actually quite some time beforehand to talk about it, and this always also improved. You know, it helps to collaborate. You had really great ideas, and thanks so much for having me, and thanks for taking time. I mean, it's a Thursday evening, 6:30 or 12:30 for some people. I always appreciate that time. So yes, put your questions in the chat box, but what I'm personally also interested, where are you from and what are you having for dinner? Especially the second one is important for me. What are you having for dinner? I'm so hungry right now. So let me get started. Hopefully it's gonna work now. Hang on a sec, sorry. And share screen, it's, yes, here we go. You should all see my screen now. A clean org makes happy users, is that correct? Good, thanks Bart. So let me start with a story. And this is a true story from 3 weeks ago. I was hired, not hired, I signed a contract with somebody. I'm a non-for-profit consultant, you know, for free, for pro bono. It's a huge implementation. It's one of the biggest non-for-profits globally. And I was hired as the architect. They already built all the solutions, and my task was, you know, to validate the solution, improve performance, make everything better, and stuff like that. I didn't do any of that. What I do is clean up page layouts. This is what I did for the last 3 weeks, and this is what I will do for the next couple of weeks. Until the page layouts are clean, I'm not looking at the underlying architecture. I'm pretty strict about that. And this is the same for all my clients. I spend about 20% of my time, even I'm hired as an architect, by cleaning up. There's not a useless page layout in there. There's not a useless list view. There's not a single field on the page layout which should not be there. I'm obsessed with cleaning my orgs, because I think only when I have a clean org, my architecture can truly shine. But before we get started, I have a quiz for you. It's kind of, you know, it's not a real quiz. But do you have in your orgs, and please wave with your hands if you have one of these following symptoms: slow development speed? Are your users or business users complaining that you are not fast enough with new innovation? Unhappy users and decreasing adoption? Lower quality and higher number of bugs the more you develop? Are your teammates are leaving your team? Constantly hitting Salesforce limits, you know, circle queries, timeout, CPU, heap size limits, whatever. Onboarding new users takes days. Or onboarding new colleagues takes weeks. Who doesn't have that? Yes, Nancy, you know what I mean. I come into New York from time to time, and then you get like this 50-page document of documentation of the org, and you're like, you're a sales company with 50 people. How can it be a 50-page documentation? What can you do about it? First one, this is what most companies actually do. This is how I make my living, kind of. They hire a CTA. I'm a CTA now. You hire an architect. You know, you hire the most expensive consultant you can get. You accept your fate. Second option, very popular. You know, it is just what it is. Salesforce is a shitty system. We are not gonna, everybody always complains about the limits. I never complain about the limits. From my point of view, there is not a single limit in Salesforce which you hit if you properly architect and clean your org. None of these limits is a true bad limit. If somebody hits the 500 field limit on an object, why do you have an object with 500 fields? It's not Salesforce fault, it's your fault. No offense, but I was there as well. I created one of these objects. We had opportunity with 500 fields, and at least 30 of these fields were from me, and 29 of them were useless. You go back to Excel. This is what I have seen so many times. Every day, we as Salesforce admins fight against our users going back to Excel. And this fight is never over. Never. Don't be complicit. Every day, your sales users, your service users can go back and will go back to Excel. This happened to me several times, that suddenly you have some kind of shadow IT where the sales users actually start to use Excel again. Or the last one is, this is actually the least popular of all these options, clean your org. And you all can think what I think is the right solution. Clean your org. This is what is the true solution for most of our problems we see in mature orgs, but not only mature orgs. You know, when I start to clean my orgs, when I get a new customer, on the day one, the day I have the first user in my new org, I start cleaning up. It's a constant battle. The same with my flat. I mean, I have to clean my flat also every week. It doesn't stay clean, unfortunately, if I just do it once. But before we go into that, you might all know Refugee Force. I personally support Refugee Force. They are the Dutch non-for-profit. They do Salesforce training for refugees. I find it a great initiative. And all of you have the potential to support them. Of course, every non-for-profit needs money. Please go ahead and donate money. But even more important, we all know how hard it is to get your first Salesforce job. If you have a job opening, if you have an internship, if you have anything, please go ahead and hire a refugee today. All of them are highly motivated, highly trained. And with that out of the way, I'm Johan. I'm a Salesforce architect from Berlin. In October, I became CTA. I'm kind of an accidental architect. I started out as an admin. I'm a developer by curiosity, and I will never stop being an admin by heart. And recently, I started developing App Exchange app. You know me under Admin's Helper. It's small App Exchange apps which help admins out there to solve the small quality of life issues. The recent one I created was a quick close. It was recently developed. So yes, that's you find the blog and you find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. And please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always up for a call for 30 minutes. You always learn something. And today I will cover 4 main topics. The first one is what is actually the value of cleaning your orgs. We already covered it a little bit, but there's so much more. Then there's a couple of excuses why you shouldn't clean the org. I have heard them all. I have said them all. Once we got them out of the way, I will talk why cleaning is not that easy, why it's actually a tricky task, and how you can overcome the issues there. And lastly is actually how you can start it, which types of org cleaning there are, and what you can do tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year. Does this sound good to you? Then let's go ahead. This is the official, it's my personal forward-looking statement. It's my story, it's my way. Everyone is different, you know, I talk like it's the truth, but find your own way. It's just my personal opinion. And please always check with Salesforce for the latest information, for the latest update, for the latest best practices. I'm just an admin from Berlin. And with that out of the way, there were 3 people who supported me bigly here with this presentation. I don't want to leave them out. It was Nana. Kelly might know her. She's a very famous MVP from the US. Bart, of course, who gave me the initial thought on creating this presentation. And Alison from Salesforce. She gave me the last polish yesterday. Thanks a lot for all of 3 of you. I wouldn't be here with you. Start simple. We all have the tendency to start with the complex stuff. We all have the tendency to start with the most hardcore stuff. In my case, it was the quote line item trigger. We had a massive quote line item trigger. When we started our last cleanup project in our last org, we thought we should start with the quote line item trigger. No, do the opposite. Start as simple as possible. Start at the fringes of your org with the simplest possible. You work your way up to the complexity. Don't start with the hardest. It's the same. If you want to go for the Mount Everest, you don't start at the Mount Everest. You start at your local mountain. Or I think that doesn't work for the Netherlands. I think you don't have that many mountains. If you start riding your bike, you don't start with the Tour de France. You start with some small beginner bike. The same is for swimming. The same is for org cleaning. Start simple. Please make yourself happy and start simple. And there's 3 main business value I could identify together with Bart for org cleaning. The first one is good UX, high quality, and fast innovation. And I think these 3 are actually cornerstones of having happy users. And this is, I think we all want happy users. This is what our job is, to have happy users. We don't have any other job than making our users happy. And they like a clean, good UX with as least bugs as possible, with the highest quality possible, where we implement innovations fast. And this can only be done if you have a clean org, because the first one is the UX. The first impression counts. This is also what I do. When I get into a new customer, the first thing I ask for is a login without any introduction. Don't give me the documentation. Don't give me introduction. I do nothing else. I log in as a normal user and see what is the first thing I see. Do I see a lot of tabs I don't need? Do I see a lot of fields I don't need? Do I see a lot of list views I don't need? Do I see a lot of buttons I don't need? First impressions count. If your org is dirty and not clean, you will never shake that feeling. Second is, onboarding of users becomes so easy if you have a clean org. Also at here.com, Audibene, we had an onboarding process of 4 days. After we did our org cleaning project, we could reduce this to 2 hours. You know what was hard? Because we actually watched the videos of the onboardings. This was a great experience for us. How does the trainers teach the new people? They had to explain half of the buttons which don't work anymore. They had to explain all the fields which are useless. This takes a lot of effort on onboarding. As soon as you reduce it to the absolute minimum and clean it up, onboarding becomes so much easier. And users will understand your org easier, and therefore also will understand new features easier. Our company, at here.com, where I was working, we saw the org as part of our employee experience. The same way you have a clean office, the same way that your kitchen has to be clean in your office, or your desk has to be clean, your org needs to be clean. It's part of the whole employee experience, especially if your users are using your Salesforce 8 hours a day. Imagine you have a dirty office 8 hours a day. Nobody would accept it. But for our org, for some reason, we accept it. So make sure a good UX in order to have happy users. And this ties to the second one. What's not there cannot break. It's kind of a funny thing to do, but I finished my App Exchange app yesterday, and what I did today, nothing else, I removed as much code as possible. Because every line of code which is not there cannot break. Every formula, every process builder which is not there cannot break. Every workflow which is not there cannot break. Messy solutions tend to break. If something is not clean, if in your trigger, your code is not written in a clean way, it tends to create bugs. If your workflow is not written in a clean way, or if there's validation rules which, this shouldn't fire, it will fire, even if it shouldn't do. Get rid of it. And if it's messy, it's really hard to fix. Who of you came into an org with 30 process builders? Half of them are useless, but you don't know which ones. Who of you has seen, for the coders, but also for the admins, criteria in flows or in process builder, which are really hard to read because there's so much clutter in there, and then there's suddenly the same field is asked again, and it's never follows the same structure, and then the admin tells you, don't look at it, it's not used anymore, and you're like, I just spent 15 minutes trying to figure out what it is, and it's actually not useful anymore. The cleaner your org, the less bugs you have, the happier your users are. This is a simple fact. So if your users complain about a lot of bugs, you shouldn't fix the bugs. You should clean your org, everything, and then the bugs reduce automatically. And this is built on top of that. Once your org is clean, you have less maintenance effort. Who of you has more than 20% of their work as maintenance effort? It shouldn't be that way. The cleaner your org, the less maintenance effort you have, and the more you can build value. the cleaner something is, the easier it is to adopt and to extend. Coming back to our process builder, if I have one clean process builder, every criteria is written cleanly, everything which is in there needs to be in there, it's easy to add another criteria. If it's a messy process builder where I have 5 of them, nobody knows which one actually still work, which one don't, it's really hard to adopt and extend. You don't even know where to go. And because it's easy, it's hard to understand. If it's clean, it's easy to understand. If every process builder looks the same, if there's not a single field which is not used anymore, it's easy to extend and to change. Therefore, you get faster innovation. So you have 3 layers. You have the good UX for the first impression, but also for your employee branding. You have less maintenance effort, and therefore then you can focus on higher innovation speed. Keep it simple. Okay. I can't stress this enough because it's so easy to fall into a trap and say, no, this is too simple, I will not do that. Focus on the simple fixes first. Cleaning up a page layout, which is the simple thing ever. Cleaning up the list views. If I go in any of your orgs, are all the list views your users see actually useful? Who of you can promise me that? None. No. There will be at least 3 of them which are completely useless to the users, but you don't know which one. So every time your user logs in and goes to accounts, they have to figure out which one is the right one. So in order for you, so this is super simple and it makes the biggest difference for your users. So keep it simple. And this ties into the next excuses. The first one, but I'm here to build, not to clean. Especially, let's say, we guys are often very guilty of that. I'm too cool to clean. I'm too smart to clean. I'm an architect, I don't clean. I actually got calls where people told me architects are not supposed to talk about org cleaning. This is nothing we do, this is beneath us. This is absolutely not true. Cleaning is building. And if it's not clean, you cannot build. Cleaning creates business value. It's not an afterthought, it's something which is crucial to our work. If you're always busy, this might actually mean that your org is not clean. Because as we talked before, you're always busy because you're always firefighting, because you're always working around your dirty org. So take your time. This is what here.com was really great. And I'm actually demand that from all my customers who sign up with me. I get the time to clean because not only that way, I have enough time to also innovation. So cleaning is a great investment to not be that busy anymore. And even if you're really busy, please don't tell me you can't take every week 1 hour to clean your org. 1 hour every Friday afternoon. You know, this hour where you're not concentrated anyway. Just start small, do something. Everything will help. But it's not easy. First, you have to understand your org really well. How do you do that? Read through it. Actually go into exploration. So what I did and what I still like to do is I just open setup, I open process builder without seeding documentation, without anything, just go into the first process builder, try to understand it. Go into the second process builder, try to understand it. Third process builder, try to understand it. Know your org really well. Next one is know your business really well. This is absolutely fundamental. I personally, I'm not part of IT. I'm part of sales. I just happen to be an IT guy, but I am part of the sales team. And in order to understand your business well, you have to be with your users right next to them, also virtually, but right next to them. What I do internships. Let's say you have a partner manager, a B2B sales on your org. Go out with your partner manager, see what they do, listen to their calls, watch their screens. Just ask them, hey, can I join you for an hour and just literally watch you work? Not ask anything, just watch, understand them, understand the business end to end. What does invoicing do? What does sales do? What does support do? Because only if you know what to do, you know what to clean. And you need to have a plan. Start small, build a plan, and go from there. And only if you have done that, start to clean. First, analyze your org. We talked about that. Like literally go in and please take backups. This is taking backups is actually simple. Just create a sandbox. That's it. This is the minimum we can all do. Create a new sandbox and call it backup. Don't change anything there. Take a metadata backup. Use a tool which can do it. There's many ways of taking backups. Please don't not do take backups. Have a good testing strategy. Once you understand your business, you actually can build a critical path testing. Good testing strategy does not mean you know every detail, but it knows the critical path. So for most sales companies, it's we can create a lead, the lead can be converted, the opportunity can create it, the opportunity can be closed, a quote can be created, and we can send the quote to the ERP system for invoicing. Make sure this, what do we have to do so our users still can make money? If this is your critical path testing strategy, make sure you're able to do that. Then use a phase delete. We don't just go in there and randomly delete fields. Phase delete means first, delete it, not delete it. You actually just remove it from the profile first. Let's say you want to delete a process builder. You think it's a useless process builder, you want to delete it. So what I usually do is I actually deactivate the process builder for 5 users. How do I do that? I have a permission set which is called pilot users. These users know they are pilot users. And so I write in the criteria for the process builder, do not fire for pilot user, also for permission set pilot user. It's actually simple. You just add one line of, and so these users, they continue to work and I monitor them and they know as soon as something breaks, they will call me. This is a super simple way of doing a phase delete. You literally didn't delete anything. You just pretend to delete. The same is for fields. You just remove the field access for a certain field you want to delete from the pilot users. Once you have done that, you remove it for all users. But if you do that, don't do it on a Thursday or a Friday. Do it on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and be able to fix it quickly, because we don't ask too much. We do, but we fix quick. Can you follow me there? Does it make sense? If you ask, users will never accept that you delete something. Never. We are all hoarders, all of us. If you ask marketing, if this field, which they haven't been filling for the last 3 years, can be removed from the page layout, they will always tell you, no, we need it next week. I guarantee you, next week. If you need that button which sends out flower bouquets, and this is not a made up story, we had a button which could send out flower bouquets, and we asked sales, do you still need it? Yeah, we use it all the time. But we noticed the API didn't actually work anymore since months. And users still told us they use it. We are all hoarders, all of us. It's not their fault. So don't ask, do, but fix quickly. You know, you become into a habit of doing, fixing. And lastly, document really, really, really well. Okay, I have a ticket which is called clean page layout leads. I write down all the fields I plan to remove from the page layout. Then I write besides each field that I removed it. So I remember what I did. I often take also screenshots to remember where the fields actually have been. And I document that. And sometimes people laugh because I really document everything, but it's 99% of the times you don't need it as a documentation. But the 1% of the time you actually need it. And this happened to a friend who frantically called me this week. He asked me, oh, somebody deleted pick list values. How can I restore them? And I'm like, I don't know. You can't. Do you have a backup? Do you know what the pick list values were? No, we don't know. Nobody created if I delete a pick list value, I create a ticket which is called delete pick list values. Even if I add one pick list value, I create a ticket for it. You go into the habit, document everything, not for the documentation's sake itself, but for you to remember it. Still, same story, keep it simple. You can't imagine how simple it is. If you think this is the simplest I can do, make it even simpler. Build up your muscle, build up your cleaning muscle. It's not something which comes naturally. Most of us, it's something new. It's something we can get used to. Start. Let's say you have, in our case, it was an org, we had like 5 invoice users. Out of the 1,000 users, we had 5 invoice users. So we started with the invoicing users to clean up their objects, to clean up their page loads, to clean up their list views, to get into the habit, to learn. Then we followed up with the partner managers, which had like 25 users out of the 1,000. But by that, we already had a process how to clean. And once we came to the bulk of our users, which made like 900 users, we had a really solid process of cleaning. Start at the edges of your company. Don't start at the center. And start with mild. This is something you can do every single month. Remove unused objects. Clean up page layouts and list views, especially list views. Come on, please do it. Remove or review unused fields. Clean up reports. This is, I mean, come on. Check all dashboards. Do they still work? Do all the components work? When has the dashboard last been refreshed? Clean up your backlog on your to-do list. This is something I do every week. Every Friday, I clean up my to-do list. And deactivate inactive users. This is my favorite task. I always have for each org I work in, I have a super simple report, which is called users which did not log in the last 30 days. It's a security mechanism. How often do you forget to deactivate a user which left the company? Especially management. Nobody kind of informs us that somebody left the company. This is a security risk. Every release, you should delete unused App Exchange packages because they also clutter up your org. Check the critical update list. This is very important. I think most of us oversee that. Same as for record types. Are they still used? Archive unused data. You would say, oh, we have enough space. Your users are still annoyed by the unused data. If they search for an account and there's like 5 accounts and whatever, it clutters up your org. And review and remove unused validation rules and automation. Especially validation rules are my personal bane of the existence. I try to avoid them as much as possible because they tend to break, they tend to stop the work, make the org user, they're a really bad user experience. And lastly, once a year, you update your architect artifacts. You use Lightning Page Performance Optimizer and run the security health check. You clean up the role hierarchy. How often do you have like leftover role hierarchy elements? You refactor some classes, but again here, we keep it simple. We don't refactor the most complex classes. We refactor the edge cases first, and we become back better. The same is true for refactor process builder and flows. We don't refactor our main process builder first or flows. We refactor the edges. We become better. And we align user licenses with the real usage. Do the invoice users really need a Sales Cloud license, or maybe the platform license is enough? Does this user still need field service Lightning access? Oh no, they moved the department. Clean up user license with real usage. And with that, I want to finish up because you got good at building. All of you got. This is why you're here, and you want to become better at building. We all should become better at cleaning as well, because this is part of our job. And with that, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your questions, and let's see what the chat can say. And feel free to unmute yourself, and then let's have a discussion. Bart, can you help me with the chat?
Sure. I saw that Kella raised her hand. I'm not sure if she has a question, then she can proceed.
No, that was my raising hand that I had all those issues that.
Okay.
All of them, Kella?
Pretty much from one project to the other, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a question from Asmi. Asmi, can you unmute and explain a bit what your question is?
Okay. So I have this situation where in a company where I'm working on, so we have B2B segment and B2C customer experience, and as each section is administered by a different person. So what is can be the best strategy to make sure together we make the org clean? So
start small. Don't overthink it. Start tomorrow.
For example,
literally. This is start tomorrow. You clean. You alone. You start tomorrow. Before you even talk to the others. Tomorrow you go into org and you clean up 3 page layouts, 3 list views. You become an expert in cleaning, and once you have done that, you start to talk to the others and you tell them about your experience and your learnings. Doing beats thinking every time with cleaning. You don't have to synchronize with the other team to clean up list views tomorrow, do you?
No, yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
So do it tomorrow.
Cool. Thanks.
I know this is the answer always nobody wants to hear, because this means you actually have to do the work.
I have a little doubt there because, for example, in certain area where, for example, some values of the pick list that we are sharing the same.
Don't clean these areas. Clean the others.
The one that was totally not.
Yes.
Okay.
Start with the simple one. Start where you can make an impact tomorrow.
Cool.
Because you have to do a lot of convincing, and you only can convince if you show success. If you start talking to the others, they will just say, we have this big project coming up, and they say, oh yeah, we also let's talk again in a month. Nothing will happen if you talk. Everybody finds excuses not to clean. Have you been working in a shared? Have you been living in a shared flat?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You know how it happens in the shared flat. The only way to get nobody cleans if you don't start. So let me know. I would be happy to see tomorrow if you post on LinkedIn and Twitter the 3 list views you removed. Literally. Okay.
Yeah, I can share also a bit from my own experience. There was one time, especially about list views, I opened up the permissions for everyone because they wanted to change something, and I forgot for a while to change it back, to straighten up the permissions. So in the end, we ended up with list views where the title didn't match with the actual results coming out. So also learning point to keep your permissions strict.
Yeah,
to do things.
Or I personally do it like other way around. I allow them to create list views. I just go in and clean up regularly. I don't want to be the one who creates the list views. I allow them to do whatever they want as long as I clean up. Both ways have their advantages. I maybe come from a startup background. If I have to create all the list views, I don't stop creating list views.
So you're saying that you're also trusting your employees to go ahead and do their stuff in Salesforce?
Yes, I'm a huge proponent of train them. So coming back to list views, I would give training every 2 or 3 months, which says, how do I create list views? Best practices. Allow everybody to create list views, but I clean up on a regular basis. I did the same in my last company. I was so annoyed of doing data migrations. You know what I mean? Because it was eating up all my work time. So I actually just did a training and trained a lot of people on how to do data imports. And I trusted them. Yes, it fails like 1 out of 100 times, but honestly, if I do it, it also fails 1 out of, I also make mistakes. I'd rather train the people and enable them themselves. Same as for reports, building reports. I don't want to build reports. No offense. I actually like to do it, but it's not the best use of my time. I would rather trust them and clean up later. A different approach. Any other questions there?
Okay, other questions?
Ask me. You're a product of Retrofit for us. You did.
Johan, here's the other Johan.
Hello.
But I have a question. Do you have? Are you using a checklist or something each month, which you go by? Because how do you remember all the actions you have to take?
Yes.
I'm wondering how much time does it take? How much days per month?
You become fast. You become faster. You become really fast. Because right now, if you start today, it takes a lot of time because your list views are cluttered, your page layouts are dirty. But once you do it on a regular basis, there's maybe one field you have to remove. So cleaning up a list view takes me usually 15 minutes per month per list view. So I have a checklist I can send. Yeah, the PowerPoint is basically what I have in the PowerPoint is my checklist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And what are the responses of your users on all your actions? Are they happy with it, or do they think, oh, here he goes again?
You have to do it regularly. We could improve the performance of our users by up to 90%. Also, like reduce the effort they have to do certain stuff by 90%.
Yeah, that's effective. Yeah.
I just went live with another customer 3 weeks ago, we went live with literally 5 fields out of the 25 they requested originally. Same.
Yeah.
I even do it when I do in the design phase. I also clean up already this design from the customer, even before we build. It becomes just a second habit, this cleaning up.
Yeah,
Because-
definitely.
Because you get some kind of experience. What you should, my favorite one is always the hobby field. I mean, how often have you been implementing the hobby on a contact? In a B2C?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Was
I've
it?
never had it, but yeah, it's,
I have done it
it's a
quite
common
often,
thing.
and it was always useless. I always had to remove it a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
Because
I guess even from a privacy point of view, you can't use it. So yeah, get rid of it.
yeah, get rid of it. It
Okay,
sounds a little
thanks.
weird. I became actually a big fan of description fields.
Do you
Yeah.
also use some kind of tooling like a field explorer to
No.
see how many times a field is actually filled or something?
No, because users fill fields. This is what we learned. I have a certain way of cleaning page layouts. I don't do that because users have the tendency to fill fields even if it's useless. This is something psychologically we have. People want to be good. And so if you have a form in front of you, you fill out every field because you want to be a good employee, even if it's completely useless. So what I do is I open the screen. I have an average sales user, like literally the most average person in the room, not something management told me, not team lead, not the super rock star, some random person, as lazy as possible, but successful kind of. I try to find like lazy and successful. And then I ask this person, what does this field do? And this person has 5 seconds to explain to me. If the person can't explain in 5 seconds, the field is gone. Next field, next field, next field, next field. What does this button do? 5 seconds, gone. Just because a field is filled, it's not useful. So I don't use I don't do tooling, I talk to people. It's a fun project. I actually like it. It's my favorite. It's one of my
Okay.
favorite things because it's it's so funny to do this this exercise. This explain me what this field actually does. How does this field help you make more money? And the field trip tools. Let's say you have a required pick list which is sales hobby. You know what? It's always filled because it's a required field.
Can I have another question? If I look at the instance speed test, for example, and it gives you the result with all these various numbers, the opt-in scores, and so how?
I don't care. I only ask users. I don't care about numbers. I ask the user what's slow for you. Because the only thing that matters is the user. If the user tells you the account is loading slow and you tell them my speed test tells me it's fast, doesn't matter. So the user will tell you, okay, then I don't care. I ask the user. This is the only thing that counts for me. And there's no correlation between real speed and what the user thinks. It's kind of funny. We are humans. We are really bad at, but the feelings count. And maybe the user thinks it's loading slowly. It's actually not loading slowly, but since it has so many fields on it, the user thinks it's slow or. Yeah. So coming back, I use literally no tool. Kind of funny. Nancy, you unmuted?
Yeah. If you wanted to clean up record types, what would your approach be?
Yeah. First, I create a report which is on this object, which is said leads a record created in the last, and usually I take 60 to 90 days, which have, also I have like 5 record types. So I create the report and I check if this record type was created in the last, also if there was a record created in the or updated with that record type in the last 90 days. That already gives you a really good indication. Because if there's no records, then the record type is probably not used. Then I use, I have Visual Studio Code. So this is, I use search all. I not use another tool. I download the metadata and just search where is this record type all used. But if there is no, if there is no records created or updated with that record type, it's not Even if there's automation on top of it, it's probably not used anymore.
Yeah.
So I always I always do the same way. I either ask the users or I look if this is still used, kind of, with a report.
And if it's from more an architect point of view and an org point of view, that you want to decrease the number of record types because you have a lot of them and they're not there because of the different processes that there are, but for other reasons. So that they are being used, but you rather see less of them.
I don't see less of them as a value. So it already sounds too complex.
It is.
Did you clean up your list? Did you clean up your list views already?
Yeah. No.
Good. Once you have done that, we can talk again. Now, no offense to there, but
yeah, true.
I've actually done an exercise like this because we're merging we have 2 international companies and we're merging to another one. They're using the same Salesforce. And so the one that was already in there has a lot of their own record types. And so I was trying to leverage the same one just because the admin that we'll leave behind does not, he's newer to Salesforce. So having to teach him on that. So the record types, my thing for that with analysis is I do quite a bit of analysis on what are your processes? Because I think record types, when you create them, they're for different processes, right? So if you have different processes, then you would create them. So I tried to see, can we leverage with them to say, can we kind of, maybe you need to do a process re-engineering, right? Maybe you need to rethink your process, the way you do things. Can you guys do, create this status versus calling it this? So trying to keep it the same. And the other thing was with pick lists, and because we have quite a few record types and I don't want to create any more. So processes is one, trying to figure out which pick list can we use. Maybe we can use a dependent pick list to show other pick lists. That would help you combine the record types. So yeah, I just trying to, I think I have a spreadsheet for that. If you want, I can share what I've done with that. Cause that record type is really processes, pick lists. Is it very different? And if we can re-engineer some of these processes just to make it more efficient and have the 2 business units align on those processes, then maybe you can combine those record types.
Yeah, I agree there. I personally, maybe it's also my startup background. I'm not opposed to building dirty solutions now to get my users onboarded fast. Also this is really maybe the startup background. I'd rather create something dirty now and clean up later than delay the onboarding. The most important thing for me is to be fast, because this makes happy users. I get your point, Kelly. All your approaches are correct. Just to find a balance, I think, is correct there. What do you say there?
Yeah, I think that you always have to find a balance because you want to do something quick because you don't want to take too long, right? The adoption is a big thing as well. So I think adoption is huge. I mean, you have to make it easy, for people to use. If it's not easy to use, people are not going to stay in it very long, and so I agree with a lot of what you say. But if I can limit the options of record types and just, okay, like if I were to go in as a user and I'm like, okay, which record type, first tie it down with the profile, maybe just give them what they need, right?
Yeah.
Or the other thing is if you can reduce it just by combining the processes anyway. It's just like if you go to a restaurant and you have a menu and there's 5 items on there versus a restaurant with 200 items. I get overwhelmed. I just walk out. I don't know what to order. There's just too many variations. So if you just give me, people like simplicity, just like you say, we like simplicity.
Absolutely agree with the record types. This is also log in as the user, see what the user does. If the user creates a lead and they every time have to check the record type, but they always select the same one anyway, why don't you just tie it down? I agree 100% there. Any more questions?
Yeah, I was wondering if Salesforce is how do you say it? Does it give enough signals when you are breaking things or not? Like removing a field from a page layout, it's easy. Or removing a list view it's yeah, no big deal. But how can you make sure that you don't break anything? Like when you remove a field or delete a field or remove a record type that could be really impacting your process, your business process.
So the first I have actually a process there. The first one is I create a report. Like I told you, was there a record with this record type created or updated in the last 90 days? If not, yes, you create a process which is not used anymore. You break a process which is not used anymore. Therefore, second is I search I told you I download all the metadata and I do search all. And I just search for the API name of that record type across all my metadata, all my code, my process builder workflow. See where it's still used. And figure out if this still is active, if this still happens. This is already the second step. The third one is, like you say, the record type. I wouldn't remove the record type immediately. I would like hide it, as we talked about it. Like, no, remove it from the profiles. See if it's still, and then first for a small subset of users. And then if I actually remove the, and by now I'm 99% sure I don't break anything.
Okay, and when you talk about downloading metadata, what do you mean by that?
There is certain tools where you can just download all the metadata, for example, Visual Studio Code or a Welkin Suite, and then you can do a search all. I can update you later on that.
It's with Workbench or?
No, not with Workbench.
Okay.
Okay, so you download all the metadata on your computer, basically, and then you search across all the files and just search all, and it gives you all the results. Okay. Which is a great way, this is the way of making sure where something is used. And of course, Salesforce tells you 99% of the time it's used somewhere, but not always. Therefore, the search all is faster. Okay. And yes, I break sometimes. I break stuff, but then I try to fix it as quickly as possible. And since I documented everything, my colleagues also can fix. They just have to see that the done tickets. Okay. Any more questions there?
I don't have a question, but I do have, can I share an app that I used recently and I thought it was pretty useful to do my analysis? I don't know if you guys heard of, it's called Salesforce Schema Lister. So I'll put it in the chat, but you can link it up to your org and just kind of export like all the fields and do your analysis there. And that kind of helped me. I thought it was pretty cool. So I wanted to share.
Okay, that's interesting to explore a bit more. Thank you. I don't know if anyone is struggling also to clean up reports, because I found out it's very good to do with reports on reporting, report on reports, and then use data loader to move reports to like a folder for a while, just to keep them. And if they are, if there's not any demand for it, then you can clean it after 90 days or something.
Absolutely.
Or hide them in the first place, and then actually deleting them in batch with data loader is also possible. First I thought it wasn't an option within data loader, but in the end it worked for me. So I don't know if anyone is struggling with deleting reports. I think data loader is quite handy to do it.
Mm-hmm. I found a second way. This is a little counterintuitive. I created one unfiled public report folder where just everybody could create as many reports. So this is the most dirty folder ever. And I told people how to favorite reports. So we basically gave up on folders. We gave up on cleaning. We just say you are responsible yourself to take care of which reports you need. This, again, maybe the messy startup way of doing it.
Yeah, that's also an approach.
It's kind of the dirty approach.
And Bart, just a quick question. I didn't know that option also, that you could move reports. Is that data loader EO, or is that just plain old data loader?
Me personally, I use this offline data loader, but I guess data loader IO is also having the same functionalities.
Yeah, we have also the offline data loader, so that's great. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. I didn't know that part. I learned something today as well. Thank you. And Kelly, I would be super interested to learn about your checklist for record types. This definitely I can use in the future.
Okay, sounds good. Let me pull that.
Okay, any more questions? Or?
I've just started recently working with a Salesforce org that has an age of 7 years. So by privacy law, certain data has to be removed. And we also want to clean up our org because it's 7 years old and it's a child with a lot of baggage in. So we are there any tools available to analyze relationships between different components like objects, record types, Apex code, pages.
No.
One complete.
You're looking for a silver bullet. You're looking for something. There is none. Not technically, and maybe there is some, but I'm a proponent of keep it simple, and there's nothing which beats your users. You start at the top with the page layouts, with the simplest one. I always come back. You start with the page layouts. You remove the fields from the page layout. Then you remove the fields. Then you go into the process builder, every single one, and check: is this still used? Are these criteria still happening? You know what I mean? Like, if not, remove the node. Next. This is not a tool. There's no tool in the world. You could build a tool, I would say, theoretically, but this sounds like a lot of tedious work. We also had a org with 700 to 1,000 users, 6 years old. It took me 2 weeks to clean up the whole org. Not to clean it, but to write all the tickets. All it is tedious work. It's nothing else. You look for a tool. What you have to do is actually sit down, open the first process builder, create a report. Next process builder, report. It takes you per node 3 minutes, maybe. Write a ticket. The ticket says either yes, the node is okay, or no, the node can be deleted. Done. This is faster than any tool can ever be. It's just tedious. I personally enjoy it, but I think that's why we all look for these tools, because we don't want to do the work. It's not smart work. It's, you go into an Apex class, the same as a developer. You look at the method. Okay, is this method more than 50 lines of code? If yes, it has to be refactored because it's too long. Does this method break any best practices? You don't have to be a good coder to understand that. You don't even have to understand what the method does. So you check: is this method still called? If no, obviously it can be deleted. This is the first check. This already hits like 30% of your methods. You don't even have to be a coder to be able to search for that. So no, you don't need a tool. You have to sit down 9 o'clock in the morning, take 6 o'clock in the afternoon for 2 weeks straight, and you're done. I promise you that.
Okay. And when I don't get it done within 2 weeks, I can call you?
Yes. Yes. It's tedious work. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Not finishing, but done. I mean, you wrote all the tickets.
Okay.
Because then the actual work, you can spread it out, but you know what to do. The analyzing takes, yes. And the good news is about, if you do that for 2 weeks, you will be the absolute expert about your org, because you have looked at every single validation rule, at every single line of code, at every single process build, at every single flow.
Okay. 2 weeks, it's a challenge, but gladly accepted.
Keep it, you know what I mean? Keep it simple, make it a checklist. Also
Yes.
coming back, is this process builder active? If not, obviously you can delete it. If this node still happens, if yes, is the outcome still used by somebody? If yes, keep it. Keep it simple. Don't overanalyze it. First, fix all the low-hanging fruits. I guarantee all of you, if you go into your process builder and just check, does this criteria still happen? You can remove 30% of all nodes because the criteria never happened in the last 90 days. So your process builder already got 30% shorter.
Well, we've got a.
What?
I have to laugh at it because it's so stupid. We have a process builder in the org that says do not remove, but it's been inactive for maybe 3, 4, 5 years.
Yes.
But it says do not remove.
Yes. So
So
yes,
you can start with that.
yes, exactly. So this is the work we actually do. As this is, I can't stress this enough, and I think start with the stupid stuff. It's not glamorous work. Don't start with the massive quote line item trigger, which you try to analyze. We had the same mistake. We tried to fix the quote line item trigger for weeks and weeks, and nothing happened. It was our massive, breaks everything. Then we actually stopped and we did all the dirty, cheap, stupid stuff first, and then the quote line item trigger, because by that fact, actually everything else was cleaner, then it became so much easier. But this is I personally enjoy this kind of work. So if you can't get it done, you can always hire me. I do exactly that.
I like spring cleanings, so it's that time of the year.
Yes. I still actually remember this. This is I usually listen to podcast while I do it because it's really boring work. It's really, really boring. There's no thinking in it.
But at the end, it will provide such a satisfaction.
Yes.
For you as an administrator, but also for your users.
Exactly. Okay.
Sure.
So what we did is, from a process point of view, we first took 2 weeks where I wrote all the tickets, what has to be removed and what has to be refactored. And then we just sprinkled in every sprint 20% of the 15, 10%, depends on, the sprint. We sprinkled in a couple of these tickets. And over the course of a couple of months, we cleaned up one after another. Okay. Let me know how it's going. I'm so curious if this works for other companies as well.
I'm curious, Johan, how big are some of these orgs you're working in?
It depends a lot. Everything between 3 users and a couple of thousand users. It's always the same. This is kind of fun. Orgs don't differ.
They don't, but I think sometimes I hear some people what some of the tools, and sometimes you can't help but do analysis. So it's not a matter of, because most of the one of the largest org I work with was about 14,000 users. And so I just can't go in and delete fields. We have to do analysis after analysis and then present to them, these things. It's not one of those where I just do it and then kind of ask for permission later. And so it's almost like you have to present and then get agreement, which is kind of, bureaucracy, but yeah,
I would differ. It's not a number of users. It's a matter of culture. And it's a matter of making sure. So what I would, coming back to you, I know what you mean exactly. You have a design authority board. You have 15 managers you have to involve. Everybody's saying no because no is always easier. I would personally I would start in Canada. It's my go-to country. It's with a small team, which is at the edges and nobody cares about, and clean up their page layout. Again, start at the edges. Start simple.
Yeah.
And show the progress there.
No, we've done pilot groups and things like that, but that still require, just to clean up an org of that size, require a lot of, unfortunately, analysis. And you're right, you hit the nail on the head. It's culture too.
It's culture.
Right? It's a lot of culture, and but at the same time, it's you have to work with that culture.
Yes. So it's not a technical thing. So it's not the size. You can have an org with 20 users, which you have exactly the same problem. You can have an org with, I saw org with thousands of users from Berlin startups. I would do exactly what I just told you. It's a culture thing. It's not a size thing, I would say. And if your users are like the startup users are often used, that stuff changes. And yes, you're right. We cannot change the culture of the company, unfortunately.
Yeah, but you said it in another first. I think is you got to start small, and so that's how we did it. We just we got authority to get a pilot group, and then work that, and then just they would help us to be the change champions for that.
Ah, this is a good point. How did your pilot group look like?
It was 300 users out of one plant. So we went in and rechanged their page layout, clean up their data, redid some of their processes just to make it more efficient. Had chatter groups where they gave us feedback, and then once we trained them, and we didn't get like too far down because it was a pilot group, because we wanted, we had to go to 78 other business units within the company, so we didn't want to lock everything down. We just got in just enough so that they can be efficient. But because we didn't want to go to another pilot, to another business unit and find out, well, they do it this way. So we kind of kept it a little bit flexible as far as, we agreed on some of the layouts and some of the fields and how we would do it. But as far as validations and things like that, we didn't lock a lot of it down. We didn't put it too strictly where we got errors on this or error on that if you didn't do this. We didn't make it as restrictive. And so, and from there, we moved on to another business units. And then once we got about 3 of them under about, then we rolled it out to the whole org. And
nice.
Yeah.
So you use the pilot groups to convince the rest of the org to go along?
Yeah, so we use the pilot groups, and then the people in the pilot groups helped us to champion the other group, because we have like the business development managers, they were helping with the training of the salespeople. And so they eventually talked to, and they have a countrywide meeting, like, I don't know, where all the business development managers get together, and they're like, hey, we're in this test pilot. And then the other ones, they would hear about it and they would get a little jealous. I'm like, how come we didn't get invited, and things like that. And so they would show up, we would do reports, we show them how to do reports, and they've been using Salesforce for 7 years. But some of them, they're now like, well, yeah, we can do this now, like, show me. And then I would get calls all the time, like, when are we gonna get it? And so we used them we really spent time with the first pilot group, the first 300 users. Like every week I flew out there just to train them, get feedback, and it, it wasn't easy, but once we got them on board and they can see the benefit of using the Salesforce and how they can grow their business, I think when the first time they implemented Salesforce, they didn't train them properly. They did it, but they didn't roll it out or use the change management or change champions. And so yeah, this time it's like a redo. That's what we did, and kind of cleaned up a lot of stuff too.
What was
pilots, like you say, if it's a startup, even with 20, maybe you start with 3, because that's what we're doing right now. I'm using the same strategy. We have a lot more, but we just use those subject matter expert, and I meet with them constantly just to train them. Because you used to see this lady who, a couple users out of the UK, they were like deer in the headlight because they're still using Lotus Notes. You guys know Lotus Notes, right? So Lotus Notes and paper, that too. So, like when they see Salesforce, they're like, what the heck? But then, you just got to take them slow and say, okay, the field on your paper, this is where I'm going to put it. So instead of emailing it, you're going to push submit. So stuff like that.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. What was the outcome? I'm curious. And what was from the 300 pilot group? How did they see improve their business?
So we actually put some candy in Salesforce. We always put candy in Salesforce, right? Because one of we have a VP that I did back SAP back in the day, and we were talking about things, and he goes, you always have to try to put some kind of candy in Salesforce. So you know, they're manual things. You have to really find out what is it that is a really challenge for them, and what is it that can make their time they can only get into Salesforce. So if you can find that one item, which we call candy, that you can stick in Salesforce, and that's the only way. And so with our group, to be able to find out your performance, how you're doing in your pipeline, they used to be able to get it from this other tool. We put that in Salesforce. And so the only way you can get it is if you go through Salesforce. And then we built this other application to where it feeds opportunities. So it's called an opportunity feeder. And so we would feed opportunities based on analytics that we got from our AI lab that would feed in, you know, based on the customers that these people have, this is what they've been buying. And so we would feed these opportunity, you know, hey, your customer, your current customer base right now, he's a Mexican restaurant. It was Cisco Food was the company I used to work for. So anyway, so, you know, if the sales manager, he has a restaurant that sells Mexican food, and so the analytics team would go out and they'd run the reports, and they have a lot of data. So what they did was they make recommendation, and the only way you can get these recommended opportunities is if you use that application that we built in Salesforce.
Got
and
it.
if you don't use it, you won't get the opportunities. And so, and then even now when I do this new, I'm working with another client right now. It's a global client. I'm always trying to think, what's the candy that I can put in there that will get them to get in there to use it.
Got it.
Yeah.
The one killer feature, kind of. We all got our first iPhone for something.
Yep.
Not because of the 15 nice to have features, but the one.
Yeah, one thing that makes their life easier, and that they can't get pretty much. They can get it somewhere else, but it just takes a long time. So what's one feature that? Yeah, that's what you got to find.
Yeah. Something I could ask you there. My personal experience is that, from a feedback point of view, usually the feedback from 2 to 3 people is enough. If I ask 3 people and all 3 tell me the same, I don't have to ask the other 300. What is your idea there?
It depends on the user group size, right? I think it depends. I mean, I don't think if you're like a big organization like Cisco was, I couldn't pull them all in from Texas. I had to pull them all in from different parts of the country, because they, you know, like the culture within different plants are different. So you have to take that into perspective of how they do business in New York versus California and things like that. So we did that. And when we got our pilot group, just to do the A&D piece, I didn't only pick the salespeople who performed the most, who were outperformers. No. I also picked the people who we asked for people who didn't perform, and just to understand why they weren't performing.
I personally don't even like to work with the top performers, because they are always the outliers. They work oftentimes different than others. If you take the top 1%, they have some, you know, if I listen just to them, it often doesn't apply for the 99%.
Yeah, so that's why I think our pool was a lot bigger. I think it just depends on how big your user base is, and then you have to, you know, I don't have a formula for that, but I don't think 3 people is enough. It really depends on your org size.
True. Okay. And how similar the people are. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we need to wrap it up, because we went through the time already. So some good takeaways for tonight, I guess. Also from Kelly, also from Johan and the others. Thank you very much. Any final remarks, Johan, from your part?
Please send me the screenshots of your success stories of what you cleaned up tomorrow. I'm waiting on LinkedIn. Post them. I'm happy to share and like them. I would be super happy. And if it's just one list view, you deactivate it for one user group.
I'm going to start destroy the instance.
Okay, well,
Thank you very much, Johan.
that's a nice challenge
We're
to do.
all quiet by the end of Friday. That's
True.
Bye.
Maybe,
I'm having weekend.
maybe do it on Monday. Maybe true.
Okay,
Hey,
Let's,
Johan,
click-
again, Johan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And all the participants also, thank you for joining, and hopefully see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye bye.